Hi, this is a quick tutorial showing how to make custom instrument banks for Majora's Mask, specifically for use with the randomizer. This tutorial is going to assume you have basic knowledge of Seek64. If you don't, this video isn't really for you. I'm not going to be covering all the basics. I'm just going to be covering how to make an instrument bank, nothing more, nothing less. So, as you can see, I've just finished up a song here, and anybody that's familiar with the Majora's Mask instrument banks will recognize that this does not fit into any existing vanilla banks, and I will show that now. Actually, before I do this page here is where I'm getting all of this information from. If you're interested in creating music for the Majora's Mask randomizer, I highly, highly suggest that you bookmark this page, because again, it is where all of this information is documented. So, since this song uses the drum kit alternate, there are only two banks that I could use for this song without creating a custom bank, and that is bank 2.0 and bank 2.4. 2.0 has, I think, maybe one or two of these instruments. 2.4 is missing, I think, the harmonica and banjo. I think, yeah. And I mean, I could just rework the song to fit instruments from this bank in, but defeats the purpose of a tutorial. So let me show you how to make a custom bank that will fit all of these instruments. The first thing you're going to want to do is on this page I showed you earlier, open up the Making Custom Instrument Sets page. On this page, scroll down to Percussion Isolated Banks and download this file here. This is a zip file containing 4 XML files that you can use to set up empty instrument banks with whichever percussion kit you want to use in your song. Another thing that you're going to want from this same page is near the bottom, there is a link to this Audio Bank Ripper, which you can download on the GitHub page here. And make sure you also have Python 3 installed. You're going to need this later to get the custom bank that you create out of a ROM and then use those files in the finished MMRS file. Now that you have all the prerequisites, we're going to come into Seek64. I've already gone ahead and loaded a ROM description and a ROM, so go ahead and do that if you haven't already. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can actually set up a custom bank. The first one is kind of situational. You can only really use if you're adding 1 or 2 instruments to a bank, depending on how full it is. But I find that the more instruments you want to add, the easier it is to just use the second method, which I will show after. So, the first method is we're just going to load an existing bank. So let's say I wanted to add an instrument to the Indiegogos bank. So I would click on it here and click Load Bank down at the bottom. This loads it in the Audio Bank tab. Now in the Audio Bank tab, you might find it a bit overwhelming at first, but let me break down what you need to know on this page. The first and probably most important thing is this structure here, all of this confusing looking stuff. This is a folder structure. Up here is kind of the path that you're in the folder structure. And since it's a slash right now, that means that we're at the root. If you're just adding instruments to banks, the only tabs you really need to know about are this instruments folder and the AB bank inst list. This is where you actually set the instruments into slots, and this other one is just the instruments that you have loaded in the bank itself. The other part of this that you need to know about is the Audio Bank library at the bottom. This, if you have a ROM loaded, will load all of the audio banks in the ROM. As you can see, we have one for every single bank in the game. What you can use this for is browsing instruments, and with the import button here, you can add them to the instruments that are loaded in the bank currently. So let's say I want the tambourine from the milk bar. I would click on tambourine here, click import, and it adds it to the instrument list here. Now, I can't use this instrument yet because I haven't actually assigned it to a slot. So that's when I would come up here to the root, and also, in case you haven't noticed, you use the up button here to go back. You click in, and then to go back, you click the up button there. So once I'm here, I'm going to go into AB Bank, Inst List, and again, this looks a bit confusing, but you can see here on the side, it kind of lists what instrument is loaded where. You can't really see the whole thing because this program's weird. But these ones here, the null pointer, that's where we can add an instrument. And you'll see here on the side that it lists the index. This is the index of the instruments from the other page. And actually, let me show you that. You see here, all of these instruments have a number beside them. That is their index. That is how you reference them. So tambourine was 13. So in here, if I wanted to add tambourine to slot 8, I would go to the index and change it to 13. And now you can see that it loads the tambourine in. And with that, I've added the tambourine to this bank. Now I'm going to show you a much more flexible way that you can add a custom bank, and honestly, the one that I would suggest using most of the time, unless you're only adding one instrument to a bank. So I've just reloaded Seek64 to show you what this would look like from, a fresh start. And now, rather than load a bank from the ROM itself, I'm going to click Load XML, navigate to where I put the XML files from before, and I'm going to open the empty drum kit alt bank. And now you can see that this folder structure has appeared once again, but I can't click into instruments because we don't have any. The only thing that this bank has is, of course, drum kit alt. So now we can just start putting instruments in the bank all willy-nilly, but before I do that, I like to write everything down. I guess I have something here from last time I was doing this. So I like to just take all the instruments in the song and write them out, just so I have a visual of what I need to work with, because I'm going to need to reference where each instrument is going to be later on. So I'll just write this out like so. And now I can just put this wherever, and I have an easy reference as to what I want my custom instrument bank to look like. So now that I have my custom bank kind of sketched out, I'm going to go ahead and, just like before, add instruments from the existing banks into the custom one. Starting with the harmonica, which I believe is in the ranch. No. Horse race. Yes, here we go. So click on the harmonica, import, and we're going to go to fiddle, import, trumpet. Where can you find trumpet? Oh, I'm actually not sure. I might have to pull up the instrument list. How embarrassing. But yeah, this is how you would go ahead and find an instrument if you don't know it off by heart. Bank 3, should have guessed. So bank 3, go ahead and add the trumpet and a bass guitar. That's in plenty of different ones, but I know for sure that it's in 24. And the banjo, which I guess that's also in horse race, right? Yeah. And you don't actually have to add these in order, but if you do them out of order, you just have to keep in mind that the index is not going to line up with the number that you've assigned in the bank. That doesn't really mean anything. That's not a big deal. It just means that it's going to be a little bit harder to work with when you put the actual bank together. So now that I've got my 5 instruments chosen, I'm going to go up to the root of the directory, into AB Bank, into Inst List, and now here where it says 0, I'm going to line that up with each instrument here. And again, this is just the easiest way to do it. You can put the instruments in a different order, but you have to remember what their index is and set it up so that it matches whatever you have the instruments assigned to in your MIDI file. It's very, very important. So the way that you add instruments here is, again, click on them in the list, come over to the index, and type in the index of the instrument. So we're just going to go ahead and do that for all 5 instruments. Done. Nice and simple. So now that we've set up the instruments in the instrument list, we are actually done with the audio bank tab. So we can come over to the file tab, open up the audio bank index, and we're going to go over to the main orchestra. And the reason that we use main orchestra is just because it is, I think, the biggest audio bank here, aside from the sound effect bank, which you don't want to touch. Don't touch the sound effect bank. Don't touch actor sounds. Don't touch nature. Don't do it. It's not yours. It does not belong to you. Main orchestra, and we're going to click save bank. Don't click load, because that's just going to move everything from here into the audio bank tab, and you've undone everything you've done. So once you finish with your bank, you click on main orchestra and click save bank. It'll give you a little pop-up. You say yes, and then it'll show you that there's an available amount of bytes here. Again, that just kind of shows that the bank that we made is a different size than the main orchestra bank. So technically, we could just go ahead and make the ROM now, grab the audio banks out of it, and then kind of do the normal process that you would do with a MIDI when you're working with a ZSEC file. But since we have to make a ROM here, I always like to just inject the song that I've made and test it within the same ROM that I'm going to use to get the audio bank. So now just import your MIDI and do everything that you would do with the regular old ZSEC file. So I've gone ahead and set up my MIDI. You can go ahead and save it right now. Now we are going to come over to the File tab again and put this song in the file select. So first off, I'm assuming you probably already know how to do this, but I'm going to walk through it anyway. I'm going to destroy and slash pointerize the end credit song. Come up to the file select, make room. I always just put a 1 here. It always makes enough room, usually. And then save sequence, of course. Now, it's very important when you're doing this to change the bank that you use from Fairy Fountain to main orchestra, because again, that's where we put our custom bank. So it's going to use this bank despite being on the file select screen. So now we are going to save this ROM. We're all done in Seek64, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead and save the ROM, and I'm going to put it in the Audio Bank Ripper folder, and I'm going to call it whatever. It does not matter. Now that it's been saved, we can just preview the song by loading the ROM. Make sure everything worked. So now in the Audio Bank Ripper folder, I'm just going to take the ROM that we just made and follow the instructions. Put it on the dropyourromhere.bat. This will open up, give you any key to continue, assuming it goes well. And if it doesn't, I don't know. It's always worked for me every single time. So that'll create this folder here, open it up, and we've got these 4 files here. The ones that you care about are going to be these 03 bank meta and zbank files. Basically, this program just spits out any bank or sequence that has been changed from vanilla Majora's Mask. And since we changed the main orchestra bank, and that's all we care about is getting the custom bank that we've made, we just want these 2 files here, the bank meta and zbank, and they'll both have 03 as their file name. So now I've opened up the folder where I saved the ZSEC file that I've just called Jack Bros for now, because that's the name of the game. And I'm going to take the zbank and bank meta files, put them in here, just so I have them all in one place. And now rename this file, the bank meta, the zbank, and the ZSEC file all to 28. You want it to be 28 because with the newest version of the randomizer, we don't have to worry about, using existing banks. We can just have as many custom ones as we want. So just call it 28 and it will be added, no problems. Also, just want to cover this quick for anybody that doesn't know how to set up an MMRS file. Rather than putting the categories in the file name, of course, they're put in a categories.txt file. So these are the categories that I had set for the last song that I made. One of those is wrong, actually. I'm not going to tell you which one. And here is the list of categories that I have saved just for easy reference. I don't really know what I want this song to be. Let's say it's going to be field towns and dungeons. Does that sound good? I think that sounds good. You know what? Let's throw it in mini games too. Why not? I feel like it. I'm going to save the categories file with just the categories that I want with a dash separating them. It's exactly the same that you would do it in a ZSEC file file name. It's just contained within a TXT file. And now I'm going to take the bank meta, zbank, zsec, and categories file and put them into a zip file. I'm going to go ahead and rename this zip file whatever I want. .MMRS. And now we've created an MMRS file. And with that, we are done. You can load up the MMRS file in the song test build if you want to be 100% sure that it works. Never a bad idea, but that's the basics of how to create a custom bank and put it all into an MMRS file. I hope this was helpful and wasn't too confusing. Yeah, so that's the outro. That's the whole thing. It's over now. You gotta stop watching. It's over.